Matamu too.
In this penultimate episode of the Matamu podcast, season 2, I want to tackle a spread that gets a lot of flack. But before then, thank you, dear listener, for sticking with us through this whole wonderful season. I've had a lot of fun interacting with all of you on social media, as well as on the comment section of our YouTube page. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm at Rumak on all platforms, and you can search Matamu on the YouTube, so you can subscribe to our page, right? For today's topic, let's talk about margarine, right? And to discuss this, I've brought our friendly neighborhood influencer, Zain. Karibu sana.
Influencer, wow.
See, you're friendly.
Asante.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Zain. Among many things, I am a content creator on Playroom KE, a mom of 2, and a actor. And your very, very old friend with all your secrets. Zenye sijui kantatoboa leo.
Cheza chini.
Yes.
I've known Zain for over the past, maybe, 15 years, maybe?
Yeah.
More than, actually.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. It's actually wild. And as always, Zain will have a moment at the tail end of this episode to speak about her very interesting works. And she's very, very interesting. So you need to hang around for that. But now let's just dive into this tub of margarine. And to begin with, where did margarine come from, right? Now, it starts with Napoleon. And that's where it gets interesting. It starts with Napoleon and it starts to get interesting there because Napoleon III of France offered a prize to anyone who could make a satisfactory butter alternative. So it was made as an alternative to butter. And he wanted it for his armed forces, especially because war, and also now the lower classes of the population who could not afford butter because the butter was really expensive. So in the year 1869, the French chemist, I'm going to murder his name, Hippolyte Mermorier. Hey. He combined beef tallow, milk, and margaric acid, which is an acid, it's a fatty acid found in milk and other things. And it became a substitute for butter that he called oleomargarine and shortened to a trade name margarine. Now, margarine consists of water in fat. It's an emulsion that has tiny droplets of water, which are spread out through the fat to create a solid, right? It's in a stable solid form. And in 1871, I'm not going to murder his name again, he sold his invention to the Dutch firm Jurgens, which later became part of Unilever. And so while the butter that cows produce, you know how butter looks, right? It's yellow,
yes,
slightly yellow. Margarine tends to have a white color. So it looks a lot more like lard than anything. So it was a bit unappetizing when they began. And later on, around the 1880s, manufacturers actually began coloring it yellow so that it could improve the sales. Now, with time, vegetable oils replaced the beef tallow. So beef tallow is actually the fat of the cow.
Yes.
If you don't know. So now, in over time, that began being replaced with vegetable oils. And around the 1950s, people became health conscious. I don't know why. It was just the 1950s. I thought they were healthy from the start. But in the 1950s, increased interest in polyunsaturated fats and oils, they hastened that shift from animal fats to your corn, safflower, and sunflower oils, which are now the main fat ingredients of margarine. Though you do have a few other oils that are used, but mainly it's corn, safflower, and sunflower. Now, let's talk about Zain. What's your first experience with margarine? What do you remember the first time?
The first time I had margarine, I can't remember the first time because it doesn't feel like there was a time in my life that margarine wasn't like I was born and there's margarine in.
It was always there.
BB was just always in the house. I mean, it is the cornerstone of our childhood because it was the easiest snack you could make yourself, where your parent didn't have to be involved.
All you needed was your bread.
Exactly.
And the BB, right?
Yeah. Then you fight for that Volkswagen bread so that you can spread something proper. Yeah. So, I mean, I always remember margarine being there. It was the snack we had after coming home from school.
Yes.
I don't think our parents had it wasn't like the healthy snack. It was just a thing that was readily available.
Now, the thing about margarine is that it's affordable.
Yeah.
you have to really put it up there. Margarine is affordable. Like, I don't know if you remember, there used to be sachets of
Yes.
BB, right?
Yeah.
And, they were like, what, 5 bob? And that was enough for half a loaf of bread.
There's even some that came in the bread.
With the bread itself, right? Yeah. So like they were all over the place. I remember the first memory I have of that taste of margarine has to be my grandmother's house. And back then, Gen Z, bread never used to come sliced. Let's start with that.
Buffalo.
All our bread used to be whole. So you had to have a bread knife. And if you didn't have a bread knife, you would literally rip pieces of bread off the loaf. But my grandmother was fancy. She always had her nice bread knife, really long. And she would cut slices, very oblong. They were not ratty, they were straight. They were just like, she was just cutting it for cutting's purpose. So she would cut slices of the bread and put a thick layer of margarine from a can. It was a can. It wasn't in plastic. It was a can.
Yeah.
And serve that up with hot uji for breakfast. My friends, there was nothing better in this world. Absolutely.
It's funny you mentioned your grandma and that thick layer, because that is my fondest memory with BB. Like, my grandma, God rest her soul, lived in the coast, yeah?
Yes.
So at the coast for breakfast is mahamri, viazi, mbazi. It wasn't, you don't really have bread. But
it wasn't, you really never...
bread isn't a thing there like it is in Nairobi. But when her grandchildren went, and that was me and my brother, she'd say, watu wa bara wamekuja. And like the biggest treat for us is go get them bread. So she'd buy buffalo and she'd buy Blue Band, because she didn't really take Blue Band that much. It was just for when we were there. So she'd buy the small tin. And my friend, that layer, yani, we loved Blue Band, lakini it was competing with the bread, and it was all her love. You knew she was doing this because she's like, watu wa Nairobi wanapenda.
Wamekuja.
So it was just from such a place of love that you struggled through the whole slice with that layer of BB that could have spread onto like 4 different slices.
Yes.
So anyway, that always reminds me of my grandma.
And just before we started, you were mentioning that you once went and looked at where the kid on the Blue Band can went.
Yes. I was really curious because I'm like, that kid got us all into BB.
Absolutely.
And I think they were like an actor or the head for one of these acting guilds. I can't remember which one. It was a long time ago when I checked.
Yeah.
But the dude kind of went with the dream, and I remember him saying it was such a random occurrence for him to end up on that tin, because his aunt was a CD creative director at one of those agencies. They were struggling to like cast that. And he was just there. It was right time, right place, and anyway, iconic. You always remember that kid on the tin.
I feel like that's the story of all of us, because like it's only when something like that happens, like somebody who you know or somebody who has seen you, unless it's like a wide talent search, it's usually just somebody you know or somebody who has seen you and be like, wait, that one would be perfect, right? So why does margarine get a bad rap? I'm sure you've heard that margarine is just one molecule away from being plastic, and it shares 27 ingredients with paint. I'm sure you saw the Facebook post that margarine has numerous side effects, including tripling the risk of coronary heart disease, increasing the LDL cholesterol, which is the bad one, while lowering HDL cholesterol, which is the good one. It increases the risk of cancer up to 5 times, increases heart disease in women, 53. By 53% more than butter. It lowers the quality of breast milk, decreases immune response, decreasing insulin response, all those things. There was a Facebook post that went out a couple of years ago.
Received.
Those ones forwarded as received. And it's important to note that not all kinds of margarine are the same. They're all margarine, but they're not all the same. Therefore, they can have very different health impacts. I did a lot of research, guys, for this, please. So I need you to listen to this bit. According to the Harvard Health Publishing, and I quote, "Today, the butter versus margarine issue is really a false one. From the standpoint of health and heart disease, butter remains on the list of food to use sparingly, mostly because it's high in saturated fat. Margarine, however, is not so easy to classify. The older ones, the stick margarine, which looked like a stick of butter, are clearly worse. And some of the new ones are low in saturated fats and high in unsaturated fats and free of trans fat. Those are fine as long as you don't use too much because they're still rich in calories." This is Harvard. Yeah. And it is important to note that margarine is very high energy. You have approximately 717 calories per 100 grams. So that's why it's usually marketed for children, right? Because they're the ones who can utilize all that energy.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering, like, why is it that attractive to kids? Even now we have Blue Band in the house just for my son because the rest of us have butter, but it is somewhat more attractive to him, similar to how it was to us as kids. I'll find him licking the knife, so it's quite interesting.
Interesting. And actually, on the issue of whether margarine is almost plastic, encyclopedia.com did a research and they put this, and I quote, "Chemically speaking, yes, margarine is almost plastic because it has all of the same molecules as plastic except one. However, that's not how organic compounds work, right? Since everything is made of molecules, the molecular structure may look similar, but that doesn't mean that the end outcome is the same. So no, margarine isn't really just one polymer chain from being plastic. How things are arranged makes a whole difference. Yeah. So it's not really that close to being plastic. But you want to use margarines that are softer. So then you need to look on the margarine packet, whether it's a packet or a tub, make sure that it says it's free of trans fats, because trans fats are the bad ones, right? You don't want any trans fats. And you want it to be high in unsaturated fats and low in saturated fats, right? So just be careful and then use just a little bit of it. So what's happening that involved margarine that you can't forget?
Well, other than my grandma and her thick slices, and I know every kid did this, and
Children of the 90s, please just come to our comments and tell us. Did you enjoy the margarine in the thick on a thick piece of bread? Please come into the comments on YouTube, please, and tell us.
No, the one I know. If you're saying you didn't do this, you're lying. If you were a kid in the 90s and you're saying you are lying. Blue Band and sugar.
Ooh.
Right now, when I think about it, it's the grossest thing I can imagine. But bro, that time, I remember even once I got home and I was looking around for a snack. The bread was over. I have two brothers, so if you slept on that stool, you'd go and it's just the packet with crumbs. Yeah, so I was like, and you're hungry, Annie.
Yes.
I scooped some BB. I put some sugar, whipped it kidogo. Bro, see, I ate it. And it was, and it became like the most delicious combination because now every time I'd spread Blue Band, you sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top.
Of course.
I couldn't do it now, but back then it was like the most exotic spread. What a Nutella. Umepata ka sugar on top. So yeah, I can't forget that. And did you do that?
No, I think we took it to a whole other level. So if you remember in the mid-90s, Unilever, God bless their soul, came out with Blue Band Choco. Do you remember that?
It was a bad idea.
It was the best idea in the world.
Really, you're the only one who I think they misunderstood they heard about the sugar and thing, and they're like, these guys are clearly craving something more exotic, something.
But it was so good.
But it didn't last because no one was buying it.
I feel like it was made for us because like that mid to late 90s, early 2000s, that's when we were in high school. higher primary, going into high school, and I feel like everybody around me always had a bit of Blue Band Choco in the house. Of course, they didn't buy the big tins; it would be just the small one because that thing was so sugary.
Yeah.
But like it was like it's what we wanted. Yeah. And then now I think it was one of those peanut butter guys came with chocolate peanut butter, and then everybody moved there. But in high school, one thing we would always do is rekindle those Blue Band Choco memories. So you'd have one person would bring the Blue Band, the other one would bring the sugar, and the other one would bring drinking chocolate.
Just somewhere mixing.
And so we had a ration of half a loaf of bread. No. It was like, but it was so kidogo. Damn, you sliced bread. So it used to be a quarter when the school was making the bread for themselves. And then it moved to become, I think, three or four slices max when they started to bring in sliced bread. So what we'd do is save our bread because that was given to us early in the morning. So we'd save it for the evening after school. And then we'd make something we call cold power. So cold power, for all of you who are so fancy that you don't know what I'm talking about, is cold water. Drinking chocolate, like 3 heaped tablespoons, and sugar, as much sugar as you can stand.
God.
Yeah, because we were hungry. Yeah, so you do your cold power, and then you do that Blue Band Choco thing. But then you didn't do in the Blue Band tin because it was the 1 kg tin. You wanted that tin to last, so you'd have it on like a side plate. You put the sugar and the Blue Band and you mix
like some illicit things.
And then now you spread it on your bread. And my God, it was so good. It was just the best.
I'm wondering how, as millennials, how our insides aren't.
No, we are messed up.
How are we still standing? Because the amount of sugar and stuff we stuffed into our mouths. Anyway.
And that's all I had for this episode. Now it's time for some guest questions. Woo! I'm always so happy when that comes around. So now, do you remember the first time either of your progeny tried margarine, and what was their reaction?
Yeah, we only have butter most of the time. Right now, we only have margarine because of my son. Because after he had it for the first time, he'd ask for butter, but not that one. The other butter. Anyway, he loves BB for real. Yeah. So the first time he had it, I think we were at my mom's, if I'm not wrong, and I realized he loved it, so we started getting like the small tin for him.
I really love that it's still a grandmother thing.
Yeah, what is up with that?
That is for me, that's it, man. Like grandmothers are, God bless them, because they open up our palates to things that we would not have otherwise eaten. Yeah,
that's true. So yes, it was his grandmother who introduced it, and now he is super into it.
I love it. So let me ask a weird question. Have you ever had a margarine related injury?
Yes, 100%. Like, you already know where this is going. I'd say that like Blue Band was a kid's thing because it was a snack you could prepare yourself after school. But they did not think through that tin can because the amount of cuts you'd get trying to open that thing, the way it was cut out, there's some sharp edges somewhere, and you cut
because
yourself.
Back then, like, nobody ever had an actual can opener, right? You'd go with that butter knife that you're going to use to spread the margarine. It's just like
you gonga, you start opening. Like, if you were a kid alone, that was not ideal. And I'm trying to remember if you could reseal it.
No, you couldn't. There wasn't, like, you know how what are they called?
Like
jam jars. Jam jars these days. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a can of jam, but there's a plastic thing that you put on top. But back then it was just that's it. Like, the Blue Band was just
so the cutting was never smooth. It was jagged. So there were tons of Blue Band. Sijui tetanus shots should have been across board for all kids, like polio.
But I feel like did we even get tetanus shots back then? No,
I don't think so. You had to be. There was just legends of someone got bitten by a dog, and then we had to go get the shot. Yeah.
No, I think I got a tetanus shot. This is very out of any, but I think I got a tetanus shot when I was like in class 6, class 5. I fell in the playground, and I hit a a log that was there in the playground because 90s playgrounds were not sanitized. It was whatever you find.
Survival.
And I hit a log, and on that log there was a rusty nail.
Oh, ouch.
And it grazed my temple. Like it would have gone, I would have not been here doing this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
But like it grazed my temple, and I was out for the rest of the day. That was playtime at around 9:50 a.m. I woke up at 6:30. I was out for the rest of the day. But I got a tetanus shot because of the nail. But like I hit my head on the log, right?
And like to have blacked out for that long, dude.
There is a proper concussion, my friend. A proper concussion.
Tetanus is the list of your worries.
I know.
Yeah, right. Okay.
When I was waking up, they're like, how many fingers? 10. Okay, you're fine.
Yeah.
So but like I feel like maybe that's why they swapped and brought us the plastic tins, so at least we could reseal. As well as avoid dying, right? But I feel like the 90s were so wild. Like I don't know, it's for all of us who believe it's God who kept us alive.
Also, I just have to ask, have you ever seen margarine expire? I have never seen. Does it expire?
It does. It actually does. I have seen expired margarine. It's not a pretty sight.
Oh, okay.
At all.
Because I'm like, I've never.
The fat and the water separate. Yeah.
Okay.
So then the fat goes rancid, and it's not fun. It's not fun. On to happier things. What's been your go-to pandemic recipe?
For sure. First of all, you're my friend who cooks. So I'll butcher any recipe.
It's
so
fine.
To find like something that is super easy and delicious.
Yes.
That I can't screw it up is a miracle. And during the pandemic, the one that came out, we all passed banana bread phase.
Yeah.
We're all like experts in banana bread.
Absolutely. We can make it with our eyes closed.
Yeah, like in the future, they're going to wonder why there was so much banana bread in 2020, 2021. But my go-to, like the one that has become a staple, is TikTok pasta. Thank you, TikTok. Thank you, Generation Z. Like
Gen Z, you're doing the most.
That is the best thing to ever come out of TikTok. And I'm not even on TikTok yet. But that pasta, it. James, please.
I imagine, first of all, I'm not on TikTok, guys. I'm not. I don't know how to do the dances. I had no idea. But please, what is a TikTok pasta?
TikTok pasta is this like recipe that came out, I think in 2020, and basically it's like what is it called? Cherry tomatoes.
Yes.
So you get some cherry tomatoes, you put some olive oil, a little bit of spice, so you can put salt, pepper, garlic, and then put like a huge block of feta cheese in the middle. Pop it in the oven until the cherry tomatoes are soft and the feta is soft as well. Mix it up. And then you'll have made pasta al dente on the side, yeah?
Yes.
Throw it in there, mix that up. I know it sounds way too simple to be delicious, but I promise you need to try it.
In my mind, I'm like a whole block of feta.
Dude, just do it.
Cries in lactose intolerance.
No, yes. But lactase enzymes are there to save you. Just pop a couple of those.
She's the one who introduced me to those things.
We cannot live without cheese, okay?
Really like
we are doing what we need to do.
Cheese is
if you need to kula and then go make it clap later, there are sacrifices that don't need to be made.
Absolutely. So yes, al dente, mix it up.
Then you mix it up and that's it. Please just Google TikTok pasta when you leave this place and then go and try it and then thank me later.
Okay, I think what I'll do is that I'll leave a link or a recipe, depending on what I find, to TikTok pasta in the show notes and on the YouTube description so that you all can go try it if you're like me, you've never heard what a TikTok pasta is. And from Zane's face, I believe...
Where have you been living?
I have been living in a hole.
Yeah, clearly.
I live in a hole.
Clearly.
Okay. So, that was that for the guest questions. Now, this is the bit where you can speak to us about what you're doing.
Okay, so I create content on playroom.ke on Instagram. We're also on Facebook, but really, like, who updates Facebook consistently? You do.
Memes.
Okay, guys, just go to Rumak because mine is kidogo dead. I'll revive it at some point. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at playroom.ke. I'm very passionate about the early years and early childhood development.
Absolutely.
So I make sure I post a lot of the stuff I do with my kids there. And then I'm also very passionate about the kind of content we put in front of our kids, because I feel like it can inspire them and it can help them find their way and navigate their way around the world. So I also share a lot of books, book reviews, and content that show kids that look like them. And I do that on Playroom as well. And then lastly, I also share like pre-loved books on at booknook.ke. So check it out. If you have kids 0 to 6, that's kind of the age group that I operate under. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll be sharing all those links to Zane's many pages, so that you can go, and she does a fantastic job. Like we live for the mornings that her children are choosing books. Don't ask me why. Don't, just let it go. Let it go. But we live for those mornings. They're really fantastic. Whenever she does an update, we all go into her DMs like, "Hi,
my
are
mom
you
also
okay?"
calls me in a panic, like, you didn't post on Instagram today. Is everything okay?
Is everything okay? But she does a fantastic job, especially with the kids. So if you have kids, you're listening. If you have, nieces and nephews, if you're kid adjacent like the rest of us, please follow Playroom and Book Nook. You can get some really good stuff for the children in your life. And that's the end of this episode of Matamu 2. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you too, dear listener. And please listen out for the extra. We're going to have some of the weird things that I learned while I was doing my research about margarine. Until then, it's your boy Rumak, and I'll leave it up to you whether you like margarine or not.